everyone should check out Untold History of the United States because in it I learned that Reagan, fucking asshole, he was actually approached by Gorbachev to totally dismantle all of the nuclear weapons. Like, he was just like, look, it's done. Let's fucking close it all down.
Right.
And Reagan was like, no, because I'm senile and I believe in Star Wars and I think that we can create this giant space program and blah, blah, blah. And he just like said no. And I blame him, dude. He had the chance. He had the golden ticket and he gave up on it, man.
You want to talk about conspiracies. Have you ever looked into Star Wars scientists that have mysteriously been murdered?
No.
Oh, good Lord. That's a weird one. Here, Star Wars scientists. Yeah, if you do that, if you type that in, first thing that pumps up is deaths, conspiracy, murdered.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's who killed all the British Star Wars scientists. And there's a bunch of different websites about it. Yeah. There's it's really fascinating how many people died, and the mysterious deaths. All 25 workers on the United States Star Wars project were killed.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. They died in really weird ways. They died in plane crashes and all sorts of shit. Yeah.
Dude, it's just like the SEAL Team
all 25
6.
workers
all of those dudes
on the United
too.
States Star Wars projects and the Stingray torpedo projects. Although the United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense still disputes these workers were connected to the Star Wars project, most workers died either having finished important projects or when they left for other employers. Several of those who died had routinely expressed fears for their safety.
What?
The manner of their deaths was also very curious, and despite open verdicts or verdicts of suicide in the postmortems, there were aspects to their deaths that made these verdicts seem highly unlikely. One of the strangest deaths was that of Shania Warren, a personal assistant for the company that was taken over by GEC Marconi. Shari was found drowned in 18 inches of water, gagged, a noose around her neck, her feet bound.
Clearly a suicide.
And her hands bound behind her back.
Wow.
Mark Weisner, a software engineer for the MOD, was found dead with a plastic sack over his head and several feet of cling film wrapped around his head. This was deemed an accident by the coroner, but was exactly the same way as Mark's colleague, Richard Poog, who met his untimely end several weeks earlier. Ashard Sharif, an experienced defense contractor, was found dead after placing a ligature around his neck, tying the other end around a tree, and driving off in his car with the accelerator pedal jammed down. The police felt this was a most unusual suicide method, but still deemed it a suicide.
Wow.
Yeah, he had last been seen in Bristol, a long way from his home, looking into a guest house using cash, and was witnessed by, with a large bag of money. These details, although known to the police, were never mentioned in his inquest. There's a whole bunch of them. There's a whole bunch of these very
That's
mysterious.
extremely disturbing.
Yeah, it's fucking fascinating, man. It's fascinating how many of them died. Because apparently Star Wars was total horseshit. It was never going to work. And they knew it from the jump. And all the scientists that were connected to it died. So all these people that could have been able to prove that these fuckers had just embezzled all this money and had used, their defense contracts and spent all this cash, all the people connected to it that actually could prove the science behind it or disprove the science behind it are all dead.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you know the CIA is up to some crazy shit.
It's amazing. Well, it's like, it kind of makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all about profit at the end of the day, man. It really is.
Yeah.
The story of Bertha Champagne, she was like the maid of Jeb Bush or Bush Sr.'s family, or I forget who, and she was found crushed with an empty car that, someone had driven an empty car, backed up into the garage and crushed her to death. And you're like, what did she know? Clearly she was killed. I mean, an empty car just doesn't start and crush someone against the wall.
This is so crazy.
Yeah.
Between 1982 and 1986, 23 deaths of English scientists that work on the Star Wars-related projects. Professor Keith Bowden killed in an auto crash. Jack Wolfenden died in a glider accident. Ernest Brockway, suicide. Stephen Drinkwater, suicide by strangulation. Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Godley, missing, declared dead. George Frank, suicide by hanging. Stephen Oak, suicide by hanging. Jonathan Walsh, suicide by jumping from a building. Jonathan Britton, suicide by carbon monoxide poisoning. These are all within like a year or two
No
of each
way.
other. Sarge Sharif, that guy that we talked about, placing the rope around his neck and driving off. This is crazy.
It's just like the DC Madam, that woman who came out and she was like,
Oh,
I have
yeah.
all the shit that I'm going to say. And she's like, I'm never going to kill myself. And I can indict so many people. And all of a sudden she just killed herself. And everyone was like, oh, I guess she ended up killing herself. You're like, do you think that that's just a little bit strange?
Yeah, DC Madams, those don't have a long life.
Right.
That's
that's a
tough-
bad profession to get into.
Yeah, you're going to take the most powerful murderers on the planet who essentially have all these methods, and they have these organizations that kill for them.
Right.
I mean, they have, whether it's Blackwater or whatever. I mean, if there is a Blackwater, please, if there's fucking Coca-Cola, there's RC Cola.
Exactly.
Okay? There's some lower
Exactly.
level organizations of mercenaries. It's not like there's only Blackwater. You could only go to Blackwater. No, there's probably some dudes that are really good at being a mercenary. They know how to keep their fucking mouth shut, and they don't go Eric Princeton the whole thing,
Right.
and you know, do press conferences and change their name 3 or 4 times. They might even have a fucking name.
Right.
You know, you
Right.
call Mike, you know, and Mike used to be a Marine or a Green Beret or whatever, and he likes making $50,000 a week better. You know?
Exactly.
And so that guy works for you. I mean,
Exactly.
There's gotta be a ton of those fucking people out there. There's gotta be.
Absolutely, man.
Some DC Madam?
DC Madam.
That bitch is dead.
She's fucking murdered, bro.
And whatever happened to all of her notes and all of her, that's your gun.
She committed suicide.
Yeah.
That's the official line. If you question it, you're an insane conspiracy theorist.
Well, you are an insane conspiracy theorist. You have to admit.
I am.
You have to be. If you are a conspiracy theorist, you're insane.